Mr. President, half a century ago, members of the LGBTQI community, tired of being accosted and abused and assaulted just because of who they were or who they loved, took a stand to say enough is enough and pushed back against the forces of history that said they were anything less than. Today, thanks to the sacrifice of freedom fighters like Marsha Johnson, Sylvia Rivera, and so many, both named and unnamed, who dared that day to live their entire truth, countless others have been set free. And now, 50 years later, through dogged persistence and sacrifice, we have been able to pass laws and create policies that respect and protect members of the LGBTQI community. From challenging hateful bans against lesbian and gay relationships, to securing landmark civil rights protections against hate crimes, and finally making marriage equality the law of our land. This year, as we commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall protests that sparked the modern movement for LGBTQ equality, I'm very proud to stand here on the floor of the United States Senate as an unapologetic ally of this vibrant community. And as we close out this month's annual celebration of Pride, I come to the floor today to reintroduce legislation to further protect gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, asexual, and gender nonconforming individuals from the dogma of our nation's homophobic and transphobic past. Because even as we reflect on the progress we've made, we have a lot more to do to achieve equality. In the Senate, I've been very proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with the community in Washington State and around the country to continue our progress. And with unanimous consent, I will put my entire statement in the record. But, Mr. President—
Without objection.
I'm here on the floor today, and I'm very grateful to my colleague, Senator Booker, and our friend, Representative Liu, for joining me today in reintroducing the Therapeutic Fraud Prevention Act. That's the first federal ban on so-called conversion therapy. Because in 2019, we know that being a member of the LGBTQI community isn't an affliction. It's not a disease or some chronic condition that requires medical treatment. But rather, the politicians who say it is are on the wrong side of history. In fact, we know that conversion therapy is a painful and discriminatory practice the American Psychological Association has said, quote, is unlikely to be successful in changing someone's sexual orientation and would, in quote, involve some harm contrary to the claims of practitioners and advocates. And it's a practice that is especially harmful to LGBTQI children who we already know are vulnerable to increased harassment and discrimination because of who they are. Now, I'm proud that my home state of Washington has already banned conversion therapy, but that is not enough so long as any child or any person in our country can be harmed by this sham practice. So I'm very proud today to be here to reintroduce the Therapeutic Fraud Prevention Act, and to remind all of our friends that we stand with them throughout the history and throughout the future to make sure they are protected with their rights. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.